boy Jay, aka The Strategy, aka Mama. There goes that man again, aka I'm so disrespectful, aka the man by many names. You're tuning into another Walking Dead review show, and good evening, bitches. So let's get into this review. This review starts off where the last review ended. Glenn is basically on a ride with Abraham, and we don't know where the fuck Abraham is going. We don't know nothing about Abraham. We just know that he stopped and he saved him. Okay, so all of a sudden Glenn wakes up. Glenn wakes up and was like, did we pass a bus? And they're like, yeah, we did. He was like, what was on the bus? They were like, everybody was dead. Glenn's like, fuck that. I gotta see it with my own eyes. Maggie's still alive. But at this point, Glenn hasn't met Abraham. Remember, he passed out in the last episode. So he knocks on the window and he tells Abraham to stop. So Abraham gives him the bird and keeps going. So Glenn's like, fuck that. Glenn takes a rifle, tries to break the window in, and then Abraham finally stops. Just a quick little point I want to say before I go on with the rest of this view. At first, I didn't like Glenn. I kind of thought Glenn was a pussy. But Glenn got like hardcore. I don't know where. Maybe he's been around Daryl and Rick a lot, because Glenn got, I don't know where, but Glenn grew some balls. Anywho, Glenn is like, you know, hey, I gotta go back. So the other girl, I don't know her fucking name. I know y'all, I don't know her name. The crazy bitch, the governor's evil daughter. That's what I'm gonna call her. The governor's evil daughter. The governor's evil daughter says, hey Glenn, I know how to get back there. And Abraham's like, listen, this guy Eugene knows how to save the world. We're going with him to Washington. We've been in cahoots with Washington, but in the last few days, they haven't picked up the phone. So I'm driving him to Washington. We need you guys' help. Glenn's like, fuck that. Good luck with that. I'm going back to my wife. So, to make a long story short, Abraham's trying to talk him out and basically saying, listen, man, your wife's dead, okay? And Glenn out of nowhere just snuffs him, punches him right in the face. I'm like, Glenn, I didn't know you had that in you. So I'm like, whoa. So him and Glenn are fighting, and walkers come out, and they put the walkers down, of course. After they put the walkers down, Glenn, you know, when the walkers are coming out, you would think Glenn would, you know, they all snapped out of it and took down the walkers. And Glenn's like, listen, I'm sorry about your truck, because in the process of them killing the walkers, they shot up the truck. So Glenn's like, listen, I'm sorry about your truck, and I hope you get to Washington, but I gotta go. And he left. And I'm like, whoa, Glenn is like a badass. But honestly, would I jeopardize the world for my wife? I don't know, but he really loves Maggie. But Abraham didn't truly tell them how this is all happening. You know, he was like, hey, that's classified, which is kind of suspect. Classified. There is no military anymore. There's barely, to be honest with you, there is really no government anymore. There's every man for themselves. So classified, I didn't get that shit. So he said classified. Anyway, Glenn started walking. The governor's evil stepdaughter, she was like, hey, I'm with him. She gave him the weapon, started walking, and then like eventually Abraham started walking with them. So that covers the Glenn saga. I'm noticing this year that they're moving way faster than they normally do in The Walking Dead. Like, generally just the Glenn saga by itself would have took an episode, but for some reason they've sped the show up tremendously, and I'm not sure if I like that yet or if I dislike it. Anywho, fast forward, they shoot back to Carl, Rick, and Michonne. They're at a house, and you know, Rick and Michonne, Carl and Michonne are kind of vibing together, and she goes to talk to Rick. She's like, hey, what's the plan? Rick like, hey, I don't know right now. You know, the plan is the fucking plan. I don't know what the plan is right now. We're gonna stay here until we figure it out. And he was like, he thanked Michonne because she had made a joke and made like Carl laugh, and he's like, I haven't heard him laugh in a long time. I can't be his father and his best friend. He's like, thank you. And what really was special about this is they Carl and Michonne was sitting down eating breakfast, and she was like, I wish they would have soy milk. And Carl was like, oh, soy milk's disgusting. He's like, I would rather drink Judith baby formula. And then he kind of stopped because they still think Judith's dead, and Michonne kind of looked one way. So, you know, him and Michonne leave to go gather supplies. she lets him know that she had a child. It comes about because, you know, Carl feeling kind of sad because he still feels some type of way of losing his sister, and she did like this little thing with cheese and in her mouth and stuff, and he was like, she's like, I was never good at making boys your age laugh around toddlers, and he's like, what do you mean toddlers? She's like, I had a son. So as they're cleaning rooms and stuff, you know, he wants to know more, like, hey, you know, what was your son's name, you know. So she lets him in on that, which is, I kind of like that they're showing like a different light between Rick and Michonne. Like they're kind of like they're showing them in almost like as a big sister little brother type thing, which I didn't think that they were going to go that route, but they apparently are. So Michonne is kind of looking like, Carl looks up to Michonne kind of like a big sister, and she looks at him like a little brother. So I kind of like that. So Michonne and Carl are still out looking for things, and you know, they find this house full of dead people with a baby, and of course that fucks with Michonne's mind, and we see her shed a tear, and she wouldn't let Carl show it, but Carl kind of shows some emotion. He's like, you know, wherever Judas is, I hope her and Andre are together, which that's Michonne's son name. Now, it's two things that kind of bother me here. They're kind of really making Michonne, just really showing like a softer side of her. Like she's really starting to turn into human. I don't know if I necessarily like that. I know a lot of people are gonna like, well, she is human. I like the quiet Michonne, decisive, you know, assassin. But she does have a backstory, but they're making her kind of more softer and softer and softer, and I'm not sure if I like that yet. Time will tell. So her and Carl are going out for supplies, and Rick stayed back at the house. Michonne was like, hey, we need you healthy. You were fucking unconscious a day late yesterday. Stay here. So he agrees, and he's asleep. All of a sudden, these people come out of nowhere. Now, you guys all know that my friend reads the comic book. He's decades ahead of us. He did tell me about this character named Negan. Or Negan. I don't know how he pronounced it. I'm pretty sure somebody in the comments is going to tell me. This character named Negan, who turns out to be a badass, and he has a lot of men, and I'm kind of thinking that maybe those men that came into the house are Negan's man. You don't know about that yet, so let me tell you what happened to Rick. Rick stayed at home, and he was in the bed sleeping, and then all of a sudden he hears somebody get killed. He reached for his gun. He realized that he doesn't have his gun. He gave his gun to Carl because Carl was a dumbass. While Rick was unconscious, he shot all his bullets after Rick told him, hey, conserve your ammunition. But he didn't listen, so he has his dad gun. His dad is defenseless, so he does what any human being would do. He grabs his water and he hides under the bed. Okay, a guy walks into the room that Carl was in and hops on the bed and falls asleep. Just as Carl is about to get up, just as Rick is about to get up and take his gun and try to escape the house, another guy comes up and like, hey, you know, I want to lay down in this bed. And the other guy's like, hey, you know, this is my bed, it's just 4 of the rooms, yada yada yada. They get into a fight and the guy kills the other guy. I don't know these fucking people's name, they didn't tell me. So Rick is kind of scared at this point because now there's a guy in the bed who he has to worry about with a fucking gun, and then there's another guy on the floor that he has to worry about with that's dead. And we all know that if you die, whether you get bitten or not, you turn into a walker. So now Rick has to make an escape. He slides in or whatnot, and he hides and he avoids the guys, and he goes back to try to get the weapon. He's unable to get the weapon, but at the same time hearing them talk. They found some of Michonne's clothing, and they basically were saying, hey, there's a person here, and they're probably coming back. When she gets back, we're gonna rape her. And like that's not funny. I don't know why I just laughed, but it was funny the way the conversation was going, so nonchalant. Like, hey, we're gonna rape her. They were telling, hey, I get first dibs. So Rick is hiding from these guys, and he's going through the house, and they're coming back up the stairs to get the weapon, and he goes to the bathroom, and there's a guy in the shitter taking a dump. So Rick kills him. He fucking strangles him to death, which I like to see Rick do that. I like to see the dark side of Rick, because I think Rick's a badass, and I don't think people really truly realize how badass he is. So Rick strangles this guy to death, like with the a strap of a gun. He grabs his gun. He hops out the window. He, like a fucking snake. This guy's like, holding his gun strategically and all that shit. And he gets to this point to where, I guess this guy would be the leader of the little people who are in the house. Comes outside and sits on the porch. Now he has to make a choice. Either he can try to kill this guy and escape quietly, or he really wants to protect Carl and Michonne because they're on their way back to the house. Time goes by, and he's like, alright. He finally starts to see Carl and Michonne start walking towards the house. Now, he goes to kill him because he realizes he has to make a fucking choice at this point. If he lets this guy live, more than likely he has to drop on Carl and Michonne. The only one of them who have a firearm, I think, is Carl. Michonne, of course, has a samurai sword, but Carl, he got his dad gun. And so he goes to reach up and I think take this guy out, but he didn't. All of a sudden you hear gunshots go off in the house, and of course we all know it's the walker who the other guy killed up in the bedroom, and it might even be the other walker who Rick killed. So Rick doesn't kill but one person, and he uses, while that is a distraction, he uses that to basically escape with Michonne now. So Michonne and Rick and Carl are walking on the railroad tracks, the same railroad tracks that we seen Tyrese and the rest of the gang go down, the same railroad tracks that we seen everybody's walking down these fucking railroad tracks. Make a long story short. So as Rick, Carl, and Michonne are walking down this railroad track, they see the same sign that says, hey, this is a city, we have liberty. And Michonne looks to him and says, hey, could it be? And Rick is like, let's find out. So they start walking. Okay, two things we know. One, Glenn, Abraham, the governor's evil stepdaughter, and Abraham's group are walking towards the bus. Okay, I think when they get there, they're gonna find tracks that leads to the to wherever Maggie and them went. I don't know about Tyrese now. I think they're gonna make it to town. I think they probably already at the town. Okay, the only people I'm worried about is Daryl, because at the end of this episode they showed a clip from the next episode. Enough all that. Y'all leave a fucking comment. Tell me what y'all think. Tell me, do y'all think if those guys who were in the house really are Negan's man, or if they were just regular bikers, because they look like bikers. I don't know. Leave a comment. Tell me what you guys think. I'll see you guys next Sunday. I'm signing off. Konnichiwa, bitches.